Next on Currents News, arrested for destroying statues outside a Brooklyn church. Tonight, the suspect facing a hate crime charge.
You should not have a Trump shutdown. You have them at the White House. Trump.
President Trump, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer go head-to-head at a White House border wall showdown. Without a deal, the government could shut down. The top man at Google is grilled on Capitol Hill. Lawmakers are concerned about privacy and bias. Plus, a big education success story in the Brooklyn Diocese, bucking a national trend. The news starts right now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. We begin with breaking news. A deadly attack against a Catholic cathedral near Sao Paulo, Brazil, has left at least 5 people dead. The shooting happened towards the end of a midday service at the Metropolitan Cathedral in Campinas City. The gunman rose from his seat and started shooting, killing 4 worshipers before taking his own life in front of the altar. The motive for the attack is not yet clear. Also developing tonight, an attack on a Christmas market in Strasbourg, France. At least 2 people are dead there and many others wounded after a gunman opened fire. At this hour, authorities are treating the violence as terrorism. The French Interior Ministry is urging residents to stay indoors. In New York, the hunt is over tonight. Police believe they've nabbed the man responsible for desecrating statues outside a Brooklyn church. Currents News' Tim Harfman has the latest from the scene, Our Lady of Consolation Church in Williamsburg.
1 week after 2 statues were destroyed outside this Brooklyn church, police identified 28-year-old Andrew Olszewski as the man caught on camera. We rang Olszewski's doorbell at his Bushwick, Brooklyn apartment this morning, but no answer. The suspect was released without bail after being arrested Monday. Neighbors are shocked.
That's terrible. I saw it in the news, but I didn't know he lived around here.
Olszewski was charged with criminal mischief as a hate crime, property damage, aggravated harassment, and urinating in public. According to police, he has no prior arrests. The Hate Crimes Task Force says the 28-year-old is the man in this surveillance video, an individual who urinated on 2 angel statues outside Our Lady of Consolation Church in Williamsburg, then knocked the sculptures off the structure, smashing them to the ground. The incident took place Sunday, December 2nd, around 4 a.m. Olszewski's next court appearance is scheduled for January 11th. We showed the video to Lamont Childs.
Wow. He
He recently moved into the same apartment complex as the suspect.
It's a little wild, like who has the time to actually, do that?
Another neighbor describes him as reserved.
I just see him a couple of times sitting on the stoop.
What is he like?
Very quiet. Very quiet. He looked very innocent.
It was reportedly the 6th time in 8 years statues were desecrated at Our Lady of Consolation. One passerby has compassion.
I pray for him, but then at the same time, I want him to learn lesson.
And as you can see, the statues haven't been replaced yet. Interfaith leaders and Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams are pledging to raise funds for new ones. Mr. Adams has already sent a check for $500. In Williamsburg, Brooklyn, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
A White House showdown over the border wall and government funding took a testy twist this afternoon. President Trump, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer meeting in the Oval Office. The discussion about new money for the wall turned into a heated debate in front of TV news cameras. Steve Nannis reports.
A stunning showdown in the Oval Office.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security.
As President Donald Trump and Democratic leaders Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer appear to be at a stalemate over a spending bill, setting up a potential shutdown next week.
One thing I think we can agree on is we shouldn't shut down the government over a dispute. And you want to shut it down. You keep talking about it.
The last time, Chuck, you shut it down.
No.
At issue, how much money will be allocated for President Trump's border wall? The president wants $5 billion.
This isn't a question. This is a national emergency.
A majority of senators are willing to put up $1.6 billion.
There are no votes in the House, a majority of votes, for a wall, no matter where you start.
Both sides indicate they are unwilling to budge. Pelosi, the likely incoming speaker, emboldened by big gains in the midterms, challenged the president to move forward right now.
Let me just say one thing. The fact is, you do not have the votes in the House.
Nancy, I do. And we need border security. Nancy, Nancy, we need border security. It's very simple.
But Republican leaders don't yet have the support for Trump's plan, and it's unlikely the president will find a willing partner in Pelosi or Schumer.
This temper tantrum that he seems to throw will not get him his wall, and it'll hurt a lot of people because he will cause a shutdown.
The deadline for reaching a deal is December 21st. In Washington, I'm Steve Nannis.
The number of people seeking asylum in the U.S. is soaring. 93,000 credible claims for protection have been made in the last year. That's a nearly 70% increase. Customs and Border Patrol is asking for help, saying its agents are straining under the load. There's another showdown on Capitol Hill to tell you about tonight, this one with lawmakers grilling Google's top executive. The tech leader facing some tough questions about data privacy and political bias. Kristen Holmes has more from Washington.
Google CEO Sundar Pichai in the hot seat, testifying on Capitol Hill in front of the House Judiciary Committee Tuesday, stressing that the search giant is politically neutral.
I lead this company without political bias and work to ensure that our products continue to operate that way. To do otherwise would be against our core principles and our business interests.
After allegations from some Republicans, including President Trump, that the company suppresses conservative voices.
You've heard the allegation that there's a bias in favor of liberal or progressive points of view.
And I can assure you, we do it without regards to political ideology. Our algorithms have no notion of political sentiment.
And fielding questions on consumer privacy.
With Americans carrying their phones with them virtually at all times, doesn't the collection of this volume of detailed information really mean that Google is compiling information about virtually every movement an individual with a smartphone is making every hour of every day?
For any service we provide our users, we go to great lengths to protect their privacy, and we give them transparency, choice, and control.
Google has 8 different platforms, each with more than 1 billion monthly users. Monday, the tech giant announcing a security breach in one of them. It's Google Plus social network, which exposed the personal information of more than 52 million users. In Washington, Kristen Holmes, Currents News.
A religious sister in India who accused a bishop of rape is now saying no nun should ever have to go through what she's endured. The sister, whose name is being withheld, accused Bishop Franco Mulakal of raping her 13 times between 2014 and 2016. Mulakal denied the charges, claiming the sister was retaliating against an investigation of her. The case is pending. 2 nuns in Los Angeles are accused of embezzling as much as $500,000. Sister Mary Kruper on the left and Sister Lana Chang worked for decades at a California Catholic school. Church officials say the pair took tuition and other money to fund gambling trips to Las Vegas. The Los Angeles Archdiocese has notified police. Neither nun has commented so far. Catholic schools across the country are seeing very low numbers of Latino students enrolled in their institutions, but the Diocese of Brooklyn is bucking that trend. Currents News' Emily Druby is here with more on that. Emily, what can you tell us?
Liz, in the Diocese of Brooklyn, about 8 times more children of Latino descent are enrolled in Catholic schools, and one of the reasons behind this could possibly be access to scholarships. Tuesday morning at Our Lady of Sorrows Catholic Academy, students were awarded for their outstanding grades.
You're the best of the best. You're the top of your class.
Something else outstanding, over 99% of these students identify as Latino.
We're 99.9% proud here.
This is far from the norm across the U.S. A report published by Boston College back in 2016 said while there's about 8 million Hispanic school-aged Catholics in the country, only about 300,000 of them are enrolled in Catholic schools. That's less than 4%. But the Diocese of Brooklyn bucks that trend with about 32% of students identifying as Hispanic or Latino. But why is this number so high? It could have something to do with access to scholarships.
The tuition's almost $5,000. That's a lot of money for a family who makes hardly anything.
During a panel at the Catholic University of America, it was suggested the cost of Catholic schools is a key barrier to Latino enrollment. But many students within the Diocese of Brooklyn benefit from the Futures in Education program, which provides scholarships to students who attend Catholic school.
The scholarships are so important to our diocese because there are many people that would like to send their children to our schools. Many of them are immigrants and they struggle, and they would not be able to send their kids to our schools if it weren't for the scholarships from Futures in Education.
At Our Lady of Sorrows, 147 students were awarded Futures scholarships just this year. That's over $290,000.
Thank God for it. To be honest with you, without that, we would be shut down.
Students say they're happy to go to this school that nourishes both their minds and their soul.
I love that we can all learn about God.
Better education than in other schools, and that teachers love us, like we're a family in here.
Futures in Education gives out about $7 million a year in scholarships. They tell us most of the money goes to minorities, but that's not enough. They're always trying to fundraise more.
All right, Emily, thank you so much for that report, and welcome. As the newest member of our Currents team, we are really glad to have you aboard. Welcome, my dear. Also in the news this year, there have been 158 confirmed cases of a mysterious polio-like illness in children, and health officials say that's a record. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says close to half of the kids diagnosed with the illness this year were admitted to the ICU and hooked up to respiratory machines. It's still unclear what is causing the disease. The search for 5 missing Marines involved in an aircraft collision near Japan last week is over. The U.S. Marine Corps announced today that all 5 men have been declared dead following an unsuccessful search and rescue operation. The Corps added that every possible effort was made to recover the crew. An investigation into what caused the collision is now underway. There's a lot more news headed your way. The site where Jesus was baptized is being reopened. Ahead, the deadly reasons why it was closed off for decades. World Youth Day is fast approaching. We'll have a preview with one of the organizers. Bringing the Christmas spirit to all those who help fund the education of many students around the diocese. Tonight, a special look at 2 churches in the Jordan Valley that are set to surround the site of the baptism of Jesus, a site that was heavily mined after the 1967 war, now cleared, allowing pilgrims to finally set foot inside those churches. Ian Lee has more from the West Bank.
Stepping into this church is to step back in time. The sanctuary abandoned over 50 years ago. But step here last year, and it could be on a landmine. Israel laid thousands along the border with Jordan after the 1967 war, including at 7 churches.
These bullet holes are just a reminder of the fighting that took place here. And while this area has been cleared of landmines, you don't have to go far, maybe 200-300 meters, and you're in another minefield.
Over the past year, the Israeli government and British NGO Halo have cleared the land around 3 churches. A testament to the peace with Jordan that now prevails. But what makes these churches particularly important lies just upstream, what is believed to be the baptismal site of Jesus, one of the holiest places in Christianity. Nearly 800,000 pilgrims visit every year.
How certain are you that you got all the landmines?
Almost 100%, but I cannot say 100%, but if I can walk here, my children can walk here, so everybody can walk after we finish the job here.
Roughly 5,000 landmines remain, and an unknown amount of unexploded grenades, mortars, and other explosives. The work is slow and painstaking as demonstrated here. They aim to finish by the end of next year. Another problem, frankly put, landmines move.
A recent rainstorm came through here and you can see where the water flowed from the hillside. The only problem is that this is a landmine field and that water can carry landmines and deposit them in recently cleared areas.
Once completed, these churches hope to turn this moonscape of death back into a garden of life.
That was Ian Lee reporting from the West Bank. Pope Francis is asking Christians to prepare for the Christmas season with faith. The Holy Father says that we should ask the Lord for help with our faith and the protection of it.
È vero che il Natale, lo sappiamo tutti, si celebra anche mondanamente o paganamente, ma il Signore ci chiede di farlo con fede.
The Holy Father also urged Christians to meditate on the gospel story of the blind man whose faith was key for Christ to cure him. The Pope will soon be on his way to Panama City and World Youth Day. The Holy Father joining a huge crowd of young people at the end of January. The celebration of the Catholic faith is a major undertaking. Jamie Lynn Black is the international media coordinator for the event, and she joins us now. Jamie, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
Jamie, the first ever World Youth Day was held in Argentina in 1987. Now fast forward to the present, and an Argentinian pope is hosting the event in a Central American country. What does this mean to Hispanic and Latino Catholic communities where we're seeing such explosive growth? And also, what is the message for immigrants?
Yes, so this is the first World Youth Day in Central America. Panamanians are so excited to be hosting. The Central American bishops requested that the Holy Father bring World Youth Day to this region because there are so many poor Catholics here that were never able to attend a World Youth Day, and so now they can. And, you know, as complicated as an event like this might seem, and it is complicated, in essence, this is an event hosted by youth for youth. In the end, we'll have about 20,000 volunteers here helping in all aspects of the planning of the event. And now in Panama, we have several dozen volunteers that have given 6 months, a year of their life coming from places like Poland, Rio. Some of them have had their own personal World Youth Day experience and have decided that 1 week isn't enough and that they want to spend the better part of a year giving back to planning this event.
Oh, I love to hear about that kind of commitment, Jamie. The sex abuse crisis, it has captured a lot of attention. It also became a focus at major events, including the World Meeting of Families and the U.S. Bishops' Youth Summit not that long ago. Any signs that the scandal will impact turnout for World Youth Day?
Even though it seems like the kind of event that you could blow out and make into, you know, what does this mean for the world? At the end of the day, it's one person's experience of the Universal Church. It's a very personal, spiritual experience to come to a World Youth Day.
Jamie, you worked on World Youth Day in Krakow, Poland. You played a role in planning the World Meeting of Families. Were there challenges in planning Panama? How did you approach this papal event to make it different?
I have this personal experience of knowing what it feels like to plan an event that you feel really connected to personally. You know, when the Pope is coming to Philadelphia, I know what that feels like. You want to take ownership of that event. And so when I go to a place like Krakow or Panama, those places are very different culturally. I understand what it feels like for the Polish people or the Panamanians, not just to have this be an international event, but to really showcase their city to the world. So you just have to learn a little bit about the culture and about the things that they want to share with the world and be flexible in the way that they would plan such a huge event.
I always like to find out if there's something groundbreaking or new that happens at these events. Is there anything maybe you can share with us that's going to be out of the ordinary?
Of course, for every World Youth Day, there is something particular to that space, that region, but this one I think is especially important. This is the very first World Meeting of Indigenous youth. So Indigenous young people from all over the world are going to meet here in Panama on the week before World Youth Day. They have representatives coming from Oceania, from Africa. There are going to be 400 Indigenous young people. They're going to gather for some special programming the week prior to the event, and then they are all traveling as pilgrims to World Youth Day. But they are also going to be participating in the Youth Festival, where they will host the Indigenous Village. This is a space where they will be able to showcase and exhibit their culture and the way that they live out their faith in their indigenous communities with all the rest of the pilgrims.
Well, how much does the Vatican contribute to the planning of these big events?
So we do work with the dicastery to sort of lay down the ground rules. But each of these events is primarily organized by the Archdiocese of the host city.
All right, Jamie, thank you so much for all the work you do, and we really do look forward to covering this event. It sounds like it's going to be an amazing one.
It is. It's going to be great. Thank you so much.
Most wonderful time of the year.
The most wonderful time of the year was celebrated last night during the annual Futures in Education Christmas concert. The event wasn't just a fundraiser, but a thank you to all those who donate to the Futures in Education program, which allows students from all around the diocese to attend Catholic school.
Well, as a kid who grew up here in Brooklyn, raised through the Catholic diocese, it's great, to be able to do something for students like myself who had a Catholic education.
Over 200 people attended the event, which was held at the newly renovated Church of the Annunciation on Havemeyer Street in Brooklyn. Now, if you'd like to donate to the Futures in Education program, just visit futuresineducation.org/donate. Still to come on Currents News, Pope Francis visits some very special kids, and he leaves them with a special remembrance.
Loading the sleigh.
Dozens of youngsters got to visit the North Pole and throw snowballs at some of Santa's elves. And the Bright Christmas campaign, it needs your help tonight. It's a great initiative run by the Tablet newspaper, and donations make Christmas a more joyous time for children in need. Write your checks to Bright Christmas and send them to 1712 10th Avenue, Brooklyn, New York 11215. That address is also posted on our website, netny.tv/shows/currentsnews. Time magazine has named the 2018 Person of the Year. This year, once again, it's a group of people. The magazine unveiled 4 covers featuring journalists who have been in the news this year, including Jamal Khashoggi, calling them the Guardians and the War on Truth. Another cover shows the journalists that were killed at the Capital Gazette newspaper in Maryland, as well as Maria Ressa, the CEO of a Philippines news site who was indicted on tax evasion charges. The 4th cover features the wives of 2 Reuters journalists who are currently in jail for reporting on Muslim killings in Myanmar. In the spirit of the season, Pope Francis made a house call of his own, seeing sick children in the southern suburbs of Rome.
E quando torni a casa? Domani. Sei contento?
The Holy Father surprised his flock, visiting a home for people with chronic illnesses who need continuous medical care. The facility attends to those with serious economic difficulties.
Da 3 anni quando sto qui a Roma, faccio dialisi a gemelli.
E ancora non arriva?
No, ancora no. Mio fratello è sacerdote.
Afterwards, Pope Francis surprised another 12 young people at a rehab center. The residents have mental illnesses and come from difficult family conditions.
È un percorso difficile, ma che poi, insomma, ha anche i suoi lati positivi, la piacevolezza di stare insieme e di condividere soprattutto.
Both trips are part of a tradition started by the pontiff 2 years ago called Mercy Friday. Pope Francis started these visits as a way of putting in practice the spiritual and corporal works of mercy. And the Holy Father didn't go empty-handed. The residents of the rehab center were gifted a 22-pound panettone, which is a traditional Italian Christmas cake. Some lucky kids got on board a special flight in Georgia. 50 youngsters from the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta were able to leave the hospital and visit the North Pole for a while. The fantasy flight included a chance to meet Santa, do arts and crafts, and have a snowball fight with elves. Oh, they look like they have so much fun. That is Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you so much for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. I hope to see you again next time.